What's good, everybody? Pete here at Spawn Fly Fish, rocking the blue shirt just in case, just so you can see everything we do. That's why. But last night, went to a local lake. Turns out they've stocked it with a bunch of rainbow trout, and I happened to find a fly that they just could not refuse, and so thought I'd share that with you guys today in case you want to go catch a pile of stocked rainbows too. So grab your stuff, let's tie some flies. All right. In the vise today, we've got the FW555 from Ahrex, and for the bead, got a Spawn football bead in black, and this is a size 6mm. Of course, got some non-lead 0.015, because we're going to lock this bead into place. Going for roughly 8 to 10 wraps of this weighted wire, and trim out that forward edge there, and I'm just going to round that end with my curved inside portion of my scissor, and then I'll trim the rear portion of that weighted wire, and I will round that over as well, like so, and then all I have to do is slide that weighted wire into the cavity of the bead like so, and it's not going anywhere. And lock it all in place with some thread now. For today's thread, got some Veevus. This is black 100 denier. Trim out that tag end. Simple fly today. And again, you know, when I get on a kick of a style of fly or something along those lines, like I tend to go a little harder than most people. I'll exhaust all the possibilities and all that good stuff. But this little fly, been fishing it quite a bit this year for cutthroat in the rivers, very successfully. But again, they stocked our lakes with some rainbow trout, and well, why not go catch those too? And this fly put on a clinic last night. Alright, so as you can see, got a nice thread base. I've wrapped my thread to the very end where I want to stop the body or tail, whatever you want to call it, so that I don't creep down the curvature of that fly, give myself a little point of reference. Now for the tail, I've got some Shaggy dub in purple. And you could use black for sure, but since the rest of this fly is going to be black, I wanted just a little hint of color here, and so the purple does just fine. And you're going to notice a lot of dark colors in this fly, and I think that's part of the reason it was working so well last night. Overcast, we're getting into that fall weather, not a lot of bright sunshine in the evenings, at least not here, so dark day, dark fly kind of mentality made sense last night. There you go. A little tail, and there's nothing you can do to make this tail stop moving. So again, everything that we put into a fly has a purpose. Sometimes that purpose is just because it makes me happy, but on something like this, there's actually a reason. Alright, so now we're going to tie in a rib for our body. And for this rib, I've got some ultra wired small. This is gold. So this is going to be our other accent, if you will, as far as giving a little bit of coloration to this otherwise dark fly. Alright, got that tied in. If you noticed, I butt that wire right up against the weighted wire. Again, the whole point being at the end of this, before I start wrapping my body, I want that underbody to be as even as possible. Alright, of course you've seen me do this once or twice. I've got a piece of saltwater Flashabou in holographic black. I'm just going to tie it in so that it goes over the eye of the hook. And the reason being, I want full coverage with this flash, and I want it to be strengthened a little bit. And so I'm going to put a layer of super glue gel here, and I mean just barely get some on there. It doesn't take much. Then I'm going to wrap this flash back and then forward again, and what will happen is it's going to squeeze out a little bit of the super glue as I wrap, and then as I come back with the second wrap, any of that glue still pushed through is going to grab, and there's nothing that's going to come undone on the body of this. So just be patient, take your time, get it all the way back there to where the tail is tied in. like so, and then we'll begin the forward march, and we're going to work our way back up to the eye of the hook, and we'll get right behind that bead with this flash. Nothing crazy. This is really simple fly, but sometimes the simple ones are the ticket, and that's what gets it done. Let's securely wrap that down, pull the flash back over itself, and get a couple wraps to really secure that, and then there's nothing coming undone on that flash. Trim out the tag, and since I'm wrapping forward on the forward progression of that flash, I'll go ahead and counter wrap the wire. Just every little bit of strength we can add here is all we're going to do. Evenly spaced, as close to evenly spaced as you can get, and we're just slowly working that wire rib up, and then we'll tie that off as well right behind the bead, like so. A few good thread wraps, and then we can treat this the same as we did the flash. I'm going to pull it back and then trim, and then I'll just have to wrap down that little tag portion that's right there, and that prevents that wire from pulling out after the first fish, like so. Again, simple. Alright, so now we're going to have a thorax, and we're also going to have a collar. And let's get the collar tied in. For the collar today, I've got some Schlappen from Hareline. This is black. At the tip, I trimmed out those fibers so that as I start to wrap, these fibers are going to be roughly 1 shank length, and then I'll just get some coverage over the tail by the time we wrap 2 or 3 times. And that is exactly what I'm looking for. Let's get this tied in now. We don't have to worry about it after we've gotten our thorax done. Alright, trim out that tag. So, good to go. Alright, so now come back down, make sure we cover up that portion we just trimmed out. And again, I'm back behind the bead. And at this point I'm going to add some dubbing to my thread. And for today I've got the Spawn Simi seal in Acid Rain. If you're ever questioning what dub do I really need, this one's pretty good in my book. I go for this in almost all my flies. There's going to be just a little dab of it. If I'm having a bad day, I'll rub some on my head and I feel better instantly. So here we go. We're just going to start dubbing our way backward. Let me get that leg out of there. And that's about all I need. Roughly 1/3 of that hook shank being used as a thorax. Work all that dubbing back up. And I'm not going to trim any of that dubbing. I'm also not going to brush it out. What happens is as this fly moves in the water, you see there are all these different colors inside of the Acid Rain. Those will be blinking ever so subtly through the Schlappen as it moves. So it's sneaky, but that's what we like. Alright, got my thread in front of the feather now, and let's just start wrapping this guy. Make sure you're coaxing all those fibers to go toward the hook point. And I think this is going to be our last wrap here. I like that coverage. So I'm going to come in with my fingers and just make a nice clean V in the quill where the quill meets the fibers, and that's where I want my thread to follow, is in that V spacing that we just made. Like that. And try not to trap any of those other fibers. A few good wraps, get the thread in front, and we can safely come in with our scissor now and trim out the rest of that quill. I'm going to get all those fibers into my off-tying fingers so that I can make a neat thread neck right behind the bead like so. And now all those hackle fibers flowing toward the back. Got the tail wiggling. Oof. No wonder the fish like it. If the camera weren't running, I'd probably take a lick of this thing too. Alright, one whip finish. Let's get a second one for good measure, because this fly is definitely going to get chewed on probably within the next few hours. Alright, trim out your tying thread, and we are ready for some head cement. Got some Loon hardhead clear here, and we're just going to get a nice even coat on all those thread wraps all the way around. And we're not trying to paint any of those fibers of the feather, so again, use the curvature on the back side of this bead and let that guide your bodkin right to the thread, and you won't have any issues. And there we have it. Simple, lots of movement, dark coloration, but with plenty of hint of color peeking through here and there. And that's all we need. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you tie a pile of these and catch a bunch of fish. As always, please hit like, please hit subscribe, and we will see you guys on the water.